Hey, Money Magnets, I'm your host, Dr. Amanda, and if you're a coach, entrepreneur, service-based business owner, you're in the right place to learn practical, actionable law of attraction strategies that will help you grow your business. And today we have a special featured guest episode. So this is me on Marc Mawhinney's podcast, which is called Natural Born Coaches. Really fun backstory with Marc is that when I started coaching way back in the day in 2019, I listened to Marc Mawhinney's podcast to get tips. And, I love it when you get to have those people who inspire you and guide you and show you the way. And then you get invited as a guest on their podcast. So cool. Marc is a powerful guy who has made a big impact in the world. He has a top-rated podcast, like I said, called Natural Born Coaches. He's built a community of over 25,000 coaches. And he is inviting you into his myjunglevip.com, which is a way for you to promote yourself and your offers. So if you're interested in this, go to myjunglevip.com. This is where you can promote your services, offers, a platform software for other coaches in his Coaching Jungle community. And it's got promotional perks and other benefits for a very low monthly cost. So myjunglevip.com, be sure to check him out there. And then also go to thecoachingjungle.com for joining his free Facebook group that he's built to over 25,000 members. So let's dive into today's episode with me and Marc. We talk about branding, how to activate the law of attraction for branding magnetism, 3 steps to manifesting. We talk about resistance, why it's important to rebrand, when you should rebrand, my journey of rebranding my business 5 times, listening to the signs of procrastination and what it means for you, money blocks, so many great conversations we have in this episode. Be sure to listen. You're going to hear it pop in as if you're listening on his podcast, and then I'll wrap it up at the end. Thanks for being here, and get ready for some really incredible value with me and Marc Mawhinney.
Hey coaches, welcome back to another episode of Natural Born Coaches, the podcast for your coaching business. I'm Marc Mawhinney. Today we have a returning guest on the show. Amanda Barrientos was on earlier this year, and she's back today. We're going to talk about a topic that often entrepreneurs kind of, I was saying to Amanda, they poo-poo the woo-woo, where they kind of put their noses up at law of attraction stuff. However, she's going to share why you shouldn't do that. She has something called Law of Attraction for Business. She's the founder, and we are going to dive into that topic today. So thank you for coming back on the show.
Yeah, psyched to be here. And I love that. It makes me think I need to write a book called Don't Poo-Poo the Woo-Woo.
Yes.
It's a great title.
I've mentioned before on the show, the original title for Think and Grow Rich was going to be Use Your Noodle to Get the Boodle, which wasn't as good as what Napoleon Hill. It was. The whole story was Napoleon Hill could not come up with the title for this book. And apparently the publisher threatened him the night before that. He said, if you don't come up with something by tomorrow morning, we're going to print, and it's going to be Use Your Noodle to Get the Boodle, because boodle was slang for money back in the 30s. And then apparently he slept on it, and it hit him overnight. When you sleep and think and grow rich, and the rest is history. Wow.
I had never heard that story. That is awesome.
Feel free to take mine and run with it for anything you want to do. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, anyone who missed your interview earlier this year, Amanda, can you give us an update? First of all, what are you doing with your business, and what's been going on since then?
Yeah, I want to say law of attraction. I think a lot of people have skepticism around it, or they don't really understand it. And so they think what pops into your mind when you think of it as like sitting on the couch with crystals and meditating. Sure, that might be part of it. I definitely teach meditation in law of attraction strategies, but really it's about a state of being and the way that you think, believe, and feel. So in your business, it brings up every single part of you when you grow a business. Everyone here listening right now knows this. It brings up imposter syndrome and fear and self-doubt when you're starting, and then you're going through the process of building your business, and you can get overwhelmed and stressed out, and you're always future casting to look for the next dollar. And I mean, there are just so many things that we go through on the journey of entrepreneurship and business building. And I'm one of those people that's really spiritual and also very practical. And so I bring together practical, actionable strategies. And I've really always done this in my business. And in the iterations or the rebrands of my company, I've gone through many, and it's always about marketing clarity. And so I teach my people that you go through different zones in your business building. So you go through zone 1, which I call manic imposter zone, and then zone 2, which is the over deliver and undercharge zone. And then zone 3, you start to value yourself more. And then in zone 4, you step in your zone of manifestation, which is where clients are flowing, leads are flowing, business is growing, your brand. And so, asking me that last time I was on, I had a different brand. And, I kept just playing with pivoting, and I teach my people to pivot when necessary. The whole process of building a profitable business is about creating, testing, refining, and scaling. And you create something, you test it out, and you see what works and what's not working. And then you keep refining until you get to the gold mine that gets you the sweet spot of rapid, easy business growth. And that's really what the Law of Attraction for Business is all about. It's about getting into productive action, client attraction, and money magnetism so that you can feel really good as a business owner. And so, since last time, that's been what's been in the works since I talked to you last, was just rebranding podcast, rebranding business to have it be more clearly aligned with people who are, I would say, business owners who are more on the spiritual end in the way that they think and who are open to the law of attraction, at least.
Well, kudos for you for pivoting, because so many people are afraid to do that. They're like, well, I've been doing it this way for a while. I don't want to change that. They're pot committed. I mean, it's not that you did a total 180, because you've been in the world of law of attraction and stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's good that you recognize that and you said, I'm going to make this change. So was there a moment when it hit you when you said, yes, I have to make this pivot? And what was that moment?
That is such a good question. I wish I could think of an exact moment. It was more, I teach people a lot of branding, and I teach about scattered brand identity and getting clearer and clearer. And I recognize that in every episode, I'm saying law of attraction strategies for business, woo woo works, test out this strategy. That's a law of attraction based principle. I was like, why don't I just call it law of attraction? Just call it what it is. And so it was kind of an interesting evolution. And I will say probably a moment where it struck me that the brand I had before this wasn't working was at PodFest. So I was at PodFest and I was talking to different people, and I noticed myself needing to explain Inner Power Entrepreneur, which is what the last brand was for the podcast. And I realized no one's searching inner power. They might search entrepreneur. So that was a good keyword, but they weren't searching inner power. And I had to explain what that meant. And then when you say law of attraction to someone, they instantly have many ideas about it. They might not know exactly every fundamental background piece of it, but they do know what it is. And it is a searchable term, and people are looking for it. And then I started listening to the feedback my people would often say when they came to me. They'd say, oh, I typed in manifestation for business owners, or money magnetism for business owners, or law of attraction for business. And I was like, okay, well, thank you for that feedback. Now I can keep refining my brand to be easier for me to find.
So when it comes to your podcast and stuff, did you guys start fresh, or did you keep the previous episodes and then just do the rebrand as part of it?
We kept the previous. So, I've built a top 2% globally rated podcast, so I didn't want to let it go. And it's the same people and it's the same principles that I've been teaching through. This is our 5th rebrand. So I have been very willing to pivot when it feels like I need to. This is one of the principles of law of attraction, is that when you recognize resistance is the number one thing that stops you from accomplishing your goals or manifesting. And so when you experience that resistance and it goes on for a period of time, it's time to pivot. And so, I was sitting with that. And so, when I started my business 6 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing in business. And so my first podcast was called Max Potential Habits. Awesome information, because really law of attraction is all about your habits, because it's just what you think and feel repeatedly is what you attract, because it's your subconscious belief system, which is habits. So habits is still my foundational teaching, but when you go to Max Potential Habits, is it for weight loss? Is it for money? Is it for business? Is it for kids? Is it for there's a lot of lack of clarity there. And then I switched it to Max Potential Money, but similarly, is this building your wealth over the long haul as retirement, or who's it for? And then I thought, okay, Women Entrepreneur Podcast when I narrowed down to women, I lost a huge percentage of my audience who was really men, and I didn't know to do the research at that time. And then Inner Power Entrepreneur was widening it back out, and then Law of Attraction for Business is just clearer and clearer. So, part of the reason I say this is because I know that you have lots of service-based business owners listening, and I one of the things I've had my people tell me is like, thank you for being willing to look messy sometimes and sharing your journey with us, because this is really what it takes to build a long-term sustainable business. It doesn't always look beautifully polished. Sometimes you got to be willing to pivot. Sometimes you got to let go of the ideas that you thought you knew. Sometimes you got to be willing to let go of your specific timeline and detailed way that you thought it was going to play out. And when you're willing to do that, you can surrender and allow, which then brings new opportunities to you that you could have never planned for, which is, also a law of attraction principle.
I had a Zoom call with a coach yesterday, a new coach just getting into it. And I've known him for years, but he's just starting coaching. And as we chatted, I was helping him with some stuff. And he said, oh my gosh, you got so much stuff going on. I was talking about new, different offers that I've rolled out and other things. And I said, yeah, but I've also been doing it for over 10 years. Like I just stumbled on this one, in 2019. This one was from whatever year. And then you kind of go with it. So a lot of times, especially new coaches, new entrepreneurs want to have the perfect business plan that they follow to a T for the next 5 years, 10 years, or whatever. Chances are it's not going to stay like that. It's great if you want to do it, get going, but you're going to have to be flexible, like you said, and be prepared to be messy.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that's so true too for solopreneurs, coaches, consultants, smaller teams. My husband comes from a franchising background, and it's like, if you want that certainty about the business model, be a franchise owner, right? Like coaching is a different beast. Yeah. There's a lot of flexibility and agility and willingness to test things that happens from what I've seen in my 6 years. Yeah. And I'm sure you in your 10 years, like you're saying, it's like you play and you learn, and some things succeed and some things don't.
But even with franchises, look at McDonald's. I'm old school nostalgic. When I was a kid, it was Ronald McDonald, Grimace, a Hamburglar. We used to have our birthday parties in the Ronald McDonald caboose. I don't know if that was a big thing in the States. In Canada, there was a little train out behind the McDonald's.
I love McDonald's. Yeah.
So I love McDonald's. Yeah. Now you go into McDonald's, it's got this kind of like cool cafe vibe. They've got the, I'm not a coffee drinker, so whatever. So yeah, they still have the hamburger and fries, but you don't have the playground or the playland. You don't have the cookies. You don't have Ronald McDonald statues all over. So I think they probably
so right.
Yeah, they realize that, hey, maybe we're going to have to pivot here. But obviously there's reasons for it. So yeah, it's interesting. Even franchises sometimes have to do it.
Yeah, that's so true. It's funny you say this because I haven't been to McDonald's in years until the other day. We went on a really long bike ride, and McDonald's was the only place that had a bike rack. So we put our bikes there, and then we're like, well, let's go in and get an ice cream cone. And I was so blown away by the way that they've upscaled it. It's completely different than when I was a kid. I was like, wow, this is wild.
Change happens, I guess.
It does. And I am, it's like, okay, you look at a big company like that, the numbers and the research and the KPIs that happen to go into that evolution of the business. We've got to be doing the same thing as small business owners and paying attention to what's working and what's not. Applying this to, let's say, law of attraction strategies. I have a program that people journal every week, and I give very specific business strategy style journaling. And the question I ask every Monday is, what's working, what's not, what will I do now that I know what's working and what's not, right? So you're constantly making small adjustments every single week based on learning what's working and what's not. And what's wild is that when you take time to do that and you make little tiny adjustments week after week, at the end of the year, you have amazing results. Most people struggle to do that. They don't slow down enough. And I call it being stuck on the treadmill of BS. They're running hard, but not checking in to see if they're getting anywhere they want to go. They're just doing what they've been told to do. And if you look at how much information there is out there about building businesses, it is wow. You could spend all day, every day just researching ways to grow your business. And everyone has different opinions about it. And so you got to assess what's working and what's not working in order to keep making strategic steps and strategic moves forward to get the results that you desire.
Exactly. So can you tell us a bit more the type of person that you're attracting? When you say law of attraction for business, what type of entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's people who tend on the more I wouldn't really say spiritual. And then if I think of everybody I know in my community, they're definitely at least open to using different strategies to build their businesses. They're going to be open to mindset work. They're going to be open to aligning their energy and their habits and recognizing much more so that responsibility end of things. So one type of person I definitely don't attract is victim-minded people who are like, woe is me, I can't figure it out, save me. It's more like coming in and going, hey, I've tried a lot. It hasn't worked. Something's wrong. And then they hear me on a podcast of mine or someone else's, or they watch something I put out in the world and they're like, oh, you're speaking my language. It starts from me and then I take strategic steps and then the outer world matches with the result. And so it's people who are willing and ready to make a change. It's people who are ready to test out new strategies. It's definitely people who are at least law of attraction curious or I have a lot of just avid, people who have been following law of attraction for years and they go, oh, this totally works. I know it 100%. Like I know that it works 100%. And I want to keep learning how to break through my unconscious blocks that are going to help me access the law of attraction to its fullest potential in my business.
So a lot of people back when The Secret blew up and Oprah was a huge thing, they got into law of attraction, even though it's been around much longer, that was their first exposure to it. And between the book and the movie, I know a lot of people may have gotten discouraged though, because they didn't make $1 million in the first month of reading it when they're sitting on their chair and, visualizing and stuff. I know there's more to it. So have you found yourself helping people get past that skepticism from The Secret and some other stuff they've done with law of attraction that didn't work out?
That's such a great question. And, I'll say this, law of attraction. So I teach a 3-step system to attract what you want. So you've got to know what you want. So decide with certainty and clarity what you want, take steps in the direction, and then let the universe show you the way, bring you the opportunities. So people get stuck in all 3 of these in very specific ways. And I see the pattern time and time again. A lot of times people don't know what they want, or they don't allow themselves to want what they want. Maybe they've wanted something in the past before that they didn't get. So they think, well, I can't get it in the future. Or we have money blocks where we think, if I want that, I might be a greedy jerk. Or if I get it, someone else is going to suffer. Or, who am I to want this type of thing? So we have really specific money blocks there. So we have a hard time even saying what we want and specifically declaring and clarifying and even writing our goals down. A lot of people, depending on the time of the year they're listening to this, if they look at what their goals were at the beginning of the year, some people, if you ask them, they won't even remember. They'll be like, oh, I don't even remember what my goals were. That's you not being clear about what you want. You got to be clear about what you want. Then number 2, the action part. So this is where a lot of people in The Secret, they have critiques of it saying like, it's not just about sitting on your couch, it's about taking action. So I teach people that action is evidence of belief. So if you're taking action, it's because you believe that what you want can happen. If you don't believe in it, you're going to procrastinate and sit on your couch and wish it would happen. So anytime you're not taking action, you already have evidence that you don't believe what you want to be true, that it can happen for you. And so action is evidence of belief. This is really powerful. When people come to me procrastinating, I already know either they have fear that's holding them back or it's out of alignment with what they really say they want. So an example, let's say someone told them they should do this kind of business to make money, but really it's not a good fit for them in their zone of genius. Like it's stuff they hate doing. They really don't like the day-to-day of building that business, but they want the money, right? And so they say they want it, but then they're not taking action. That's because action is evidence of belief. If they don't believe it's a good fit for them, if they don't believe it actually is going to help them make the money that they want to make, then they're not going to take action. So action is critical here. This isn't, there's a fun story about like a woman, I went to a manifestation workshop and they said to like declare what you want. And every day I've been sitting on my couch wishing that I'd get a check for $1 million in the mail. It's like, no, get to work. Like you've got the more action you take, the more doors of opportunity will open, right? And you're sending a signal into the quantum field. So let's get like quantum physics here. There's a field of energy that we all live in, and you are putting energy into it. And what comes back to you is a matched frequency showing you your belief system. So if you're sitting on the couch, what you're showing is that you aren't actually willing to do what it takes to have that money come to you. And so you want to be putting into the quantum field, I want it. I'm in action. I'm inspired. I'm magnetic. I'm aligned. Like those are the things you want to be doing to attract it to you. On the third one, when I say let the universe show you the way and bring you the opportunities, I'll ask you this, Marc. Have you ever set a goal that happened, like a big goal that happened exactly the way you thought it would?
Probably never exactly the same way. No.
Right?
Maybe I got the result I wanted, but there were usually a lot more ups and downs than I expected, but we got it.
Exactly. So you were clear what you wanted, you took action, but you let opportunities come to you that you probably could have never planned for because you didn't even know they existed maybe at the time you made the goal. And every person I've ever asked who has achieved big things, I had a guy, I asked him, and he laughed. He was like, oh my God, never. Like it just doesn't happen the way you think. So that's the part where you're letting the universe, you could say, I like to say God, grand organized design, or you're letting infinite intelligence, you're letting even, let's just say opportunities, openness to opportunities happen because you're not hyper controlling the outcome or the way it needs to happen. So your eye is still on the goal. You set the goal, you set the vision, you take action in the direction, but the timeline might be different than you think. And the way that it's delivered might also be different than you think, right? And it almost always is that way. And so that's the process of manifestation. And so, everyone listening or watching, just remember, if you're sitting on your couch wishing for something, it's very unlikely it's going to come to you because you're not showing yourself or your outer world that you actually want it. Because if you did, you'd be taking action to get it.
Well, I've heard before, not so much a business side of it, but with relationships, for example, if a woman breaks up with her boyfriend or husband and wife, but then she still has his hoodies in the closet, she wears them around, and then she's got some of his clothes in there, and there's pictures of him all around or whatever, then, hey, maybe you should get rid of his clothes, clear out space in your closet for someone else. Or if you're single at the moment, buy a picture frame that's got, the size for like a couple pictures with your new partner or whatever. And I see, even though that's not business, I think there's probably some similarities with business or lessons you could take there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly it. So what happens when you make a decision is you cut off the previous opportunities. So, to decide literally means to cut off. So it's why I say decide with clarity and certainty what you want. When you have certainty, your doubt decreases and your resistance decreases. And the only reason that you don't manifest your goals instantaneously or quickly is because of resistance. And resistance is, like you're saying, you're holding on to the past, so in the example of the girlfriend holding on to the hoodies, it's like, I can't let go of this. I still want it. I still miss it. I'm not ready to open up to new opportunities of someone else. And you'll know you're ready for it when you cut off the past and you decide with certainty to go a new direction. Same exact thing in business. You decide what you want. It's like when I went from food stamps to six figures in my business in my first year, I was crystal clear that I wanted a six-figure business. And it was wild because I had no clue how I was going to do it. Like I saw other people doing it and I thought, if they can do it, I can do it. And so I decided and I went all in. I was several months into the year, like 7 months. And I was like, oh, wow, I don't know if this is going to happen. I kept faith. I kept going. I kept taking action and I surrendered. I was like, it might not happen this year. And then in the last 3 months of the year, I brought in, I think it was around $60,000.
Wow. You hit it.
It was wild. Yeah, it was a really amazing process.
I'm glad you mentioned resistance because Richard Dotz talks about it in Dollars Flow to Me Easily, where people spend their whole day worrying about money, bills, problems, and they're always in that state. And what he for years was in there as well. And what he started doing is say, okay, I'm going to give myself 15 minutes a day to worry, get all my worrying done in the 15 minutes. And then the rest of the day, I'm not doing it anymore. But what he's saying is that a lot of people get so worked up with affirmations and they try to get themselves into this white heat and chanting and all this other stuff. If you could even just eliminate that negative, the worry, etc., and just get rid of that, you'd be shocked at the good stuff that happens. You don't have to be chanting. You don't have to be on your treadmill or doing ice baths at 2 a.m. chanting affirmations to get good results.
Yeah. I love that you use that example because it's so true. So I teach Affirm mantras, but And I'll say you've got to use them very strategically, because if you're using them in a way to talk yourself into something, you're actually creating resistance. So if you don't believe what you're saying to be true, you're creating resistance, which pushes away the manifestation of it. And so there is a right and a wrong way to use affirmations. And what you're saying is really interesting, because think about it this way. You wouldn't be affirming something if you already had it, right? Like, I am happily married. I love my husband. I don't need to every day sit and say, I'm attracting a perfect husband. I'm attracting an amazing relationship. I already have it. I don't need to affirm that, right? It's already there for me. I can appreciate it so I can just keep attracting amazing things into my life. So anytime you're using an affirmation, know that you're at a state of deficit right away. So when you're using affirmations, you want to use specific statements so that your subconscious brain doesn't automatically kick it out and say to yourself, like, you're full of crap. That's not true. That's not possible. So you want to use statements to help you. And then another thing you said is really important. Yes, don't deny that you feel negative, because you can't trick the universe. You can't trick the quantum field. The energy is there that you're putting out. We can measure our frequency. There are machines to measure your frequency. If you're sitting there in a state of worry and doubt and fear, it's a low frequency. That's what you're putting out. If you pretend that that's not there, it actually makes the frequency even lower, because now you're in a state of denial and resistance, and you're pretending that something isn't true, which is causing a whole bunch of friction. So instead, I love that strategy where it's just like, hey, write down all your worries, write down all your fears. I tell people to do EFT tapping, and in EFT tapping, you actually release by saying the fears. So you say, even though I'm feeling fear about money right now, I still deeply and profoundly love myself. Even though I feel afraid that I'm not going to make it as an entrepreneur, I still know it's possible to succeed, that kind of thing, right? And so it's not about denying. An example I use there is like, this would be like having a fire in your office and you look at it and pretend it's not there. That makes no sense, right? Instead, you notice the fire and you decide to put it out. So you're recognizing the fear, not to fuel it. You're recognizing it so that it can dissipate. One of my favorite quotes is Carl Jung. He says, "What you avoid not only persists, but grows in size." So avoidance causes growth of what you're avoiding.
Now, I want to make sure people can get further help from you. You're doing something for listeners today. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I have what's called the Law of Attraction for Business School, and Marc has a link for you. I offer a 7-day free trial here, and I encourage every single person, if this is resonating with you and you're like, I'm curious about the Law of Attraction for Business, and I want to experience productive action, where you get into inspired action to get results. You experience client attraction and you become a money magnet. These are things that I teach in very practical strategies. So in the school, I do daily lessons from Monday through Friday, because you can't get different results if you don't reprogram your state of being, because you are programmed to get what you're getting right now. And if you don't reprogram your state of being, you're going to keep getting what you've always been getting. That's why most people never get different results. It's why a lot of programs don't work, because if they don't have these core foundational state of being shifts, you're going to keep doing the exact same things, thinking the same things, feeling the same things, which means you're going to keep getting the same results. So I teach people strategically to reprogram themselves to a very short daily lesson. And then it also offers weekly workshops live with me to help you build your business. It's really a program designed to help you, I would say, transform yourself from the inside out to be able to get the results that you want.
Amanda, thank you for coming back on the show today.
Yeah, thank you, Marc. It's great to be here. I love chatting with you about Law of Attraction for Business. Super fun.
So we've had Dr. Amanda Barrientos on the show today. I'm Marc Mawhinney, and I will see you next time on Natural Born Coaches.
That's a wrap on today's show. Thanks so much for listening. Again, be sure to check out Marc Mawhinney's podcast. The links are in the show notes. You can find him at thecoachingjungle.com to join his Facebook group, and also myjunglevip.com if you want to join his program. And to connect with me, go to LawOfAttractionForBusiness.school and check out my 7-day free trial. Can't wait to see you there. Until next time, I'm sending you giant hugs and money magnet high fives.